I'd like to share with you how I ended up in front of you as a professional contract negotiator. I graduated university with a degree in engineering, and I couldn't find a job as an engineer. So if I couldn't be an engineer, my next favorite profession was to be in sales. I joined a company called Kenmar, who represents manufacturers from around the globe selling into Ford, Chrysler, and General Motors, some fairly large, sophisticated purchasing organizations. I did that job for about 3 years before I realized I was average. Raise your hand if you want to be average. Well, I didn't want to be average either. So as an engineer, the little voice in my head said, you need to get some data. You need to understand the scenario better. So I developed a survey. I passed the survey out to all my peers. When the results came back, I was disappointed because there was only one common data point across all these world-class sellers. And the common data point was this. They had all been in purchasing before they went into sales. And I didn't understand why that was important. So I went to my boss and I said, hey, do you know the survey? And he rolled his eyes and he said, oh, I've heard all about the survey. So, well, do you know that everyone here has been in purchasing? And he said, duh, yes, of course. And I said, no, not duh, not yes, not of course. Why is it critical for a great salesperson to have a background in purchasing? And he said, Mike, it's because we understand the other side's sheet of paper. And I said, I have no idea what that means. And he said, okay, let me explain that. We understand when we have a relationship with engineering, when we've helped develop the specification, when we have a relationship with marketing, and they like the product's look and feel and touch, when we have the only capability, the only capacity, intellectual property, or we're one of very few companies that do. And on those deals, we work to close them at high margin because that's what we're paid to do. And on the other side, we understand if we're the third or fourth or fifth bidder, if, dare I say, we're a commodity. And on those deals, we still are respectful, we're still polite, we're still kind, we still submit bids. But he said, Mike, what I've noticed is you come in early and you stay late. And this was my technology at the time. I had the fax machine set up to dial my beeper when a quote came in so I could hurry and quote it. He said, Mike, you're working really hard, but you're not working really smart. And I said, yeah, it would be very helpful to know when I probably had the order and I could work to close those at high margin, and when I probably didn't. I could lose fast, get some time back. How do I know? And he said, well, you're a smart guy. 8 or 10 years in sales, you'll probably figure it out. Or I have a friend over at General Motors. They're hiring buyers right now. If you'd like, I could get you an interview to be a buyer. And I said, well, if I was a buyer, how long would it take to figure out? And he said, oh, a year or two tops, you definitely figure it out. And the voice in my head said, aha, that sounds efficient. 8 or 10 years in sales and maybe figure it out, or 1 or 2 years in purchasing and definitely figure out. Would you please make the phone call for me? So here's the vice president of sales, takes his young protege, and he gets me a job at General Motors Advanced Purchasing. Who did that help? Most people say him. But we put up a firewall. We would never negotiate against each other because we had a previous relationship. He really did it out of the kindness of his heart to help me. So when I'm from a salesperson, working really hard but not really smart, into purchasing, this is how my day went. I would work with engineering, manufacturing, marketing, put together a bid package, send it to the suppliers, and then I'd go play Mahjong and Solitaire, the games we had loaded at the time on our PCs. After 2 or 3 weeks went by, the quotes would start to come in and they'd stack up on my desk while I'm playing Mahjong and Solitaire. Then I'd get a phone call from one of the suppliers and it would go like this. They'd say, hey, Mike, we submitted our bid a few days ago and we were just wondering if you had any feedback. And I'd say, as a matter of fact, I do have feedback, without even looking at their bid. I would simply say, you are way too high. Do better. Then I'd hang up the phone and go back to playing Mahjong and Solitaire. Then 3 or 4 hours, maybe a day would go by. The phone would ring again, and the supplier would say, well, we've re-looked at our numbers, and we've sharpened our pencil, and we can take 8% off the price. How does an 8% discount sound? And I'd say, 8%? Are you kidding me? You've got to be double digits if you're serious about this business. And then I'd hang up the phone, and I'd go back to play Mahjong and Solitaire. Or I'd call a meeting with a supplier I had no intention of doing business with, one that was desperate, and I would take. Then I would call a meeting with a supplier that I really wanted to do business with, and I would say, do you see all this stuff that your competitor has offered us? If you can't beat this offer, you're going to lose this deal. And I was really good at it. I won awards for that type of behavior. Here's the problem. I didn't feel very good about myself. So I decided I'm better than that. And I started to read books on negotiating, take classes on negotiating like this one right here. And I went from a buyer to a manager to a director in the GM system. Then I moved over to America West Airlines, which is now American Airlines, the largest airline in the world, where I had all the indirect spend. Then I moved to a company called IAC Interactive Corp. IAC is a holding company that owned at the time Expedia, Match.com, Ticketmaster, Home Shopping Network, industry-leading verticals. And my job there as head of purchasing was to get all the companies to negotiate internally with each other, so then we could go to the suppliers with one voice. And my last job before joining TableForce was at a little company called MGM Resorts International. Now, everyone's probably heard of MGM Grand in Las Vegas, but MGM Resorts also owns Mandalay Bay, Luxor, Excalibur, New York, Monte Carlo, half a city center, Bellagio, skip over Caesars, Mirage, head to sell Treasure Island, Circus, 50,000 hotel rooms. I tell you that I don't know what industry you're in, but I do know this. The material we're going to talk about works because I've used it. I hope you find the same. And if you don't, by all means, reach out. My contact information is on the first page of the book. Thank you for your time.